In today's video, we're going to be doing our Q&A. I know we've been talking about it for a while. We've been trying to collect questions because we just haven't been getting as many. And now we finally kind of categorize them. We will be splitting up this video into different sections, like chapters, that kind of have similar topics to each other. The first little section will be kind of miscellaneous questions. We also want you to leave even more questions. We kind of want this to be a series. So if you have a question you want to know, or even if these questions kind of inspire you or kind of get you thinking about questions you want to ask, you can ask anything you want. And we just need more questions so that we can make more of these. And hopefully this can become a series. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, you did the intro perfectly. At this point, I'm just a bystander. You have a penis right now. You have something crazy going on right now. I don't know what's going on.
What?
I don't.
Huh?
We got like 4, 5 different chapters of questions that we have to go through. We're gonna
About
try.
4.
Yeah, we're gonna try and pump them out to the best of our ability. Try and answer them with efficiency, but effectiveness. Try and get that question really answered. So yeah, what's our first question?
So the first question we have here, and this is something we get asked quite a lot. This is by tbrooks202 from YouTube. Will you try to release this map on Java Edition?
Great question. There's been talks about it, and I think we would like to, because ultimately that's a bigger span of people, and I feel like a larger part of our audience that isn't a part of this like weird niche community that we're in is from Java. It would be nice, but realistically, we use a lot of Bedrock specialty utility blocks. We would have to remove a lot of those blocks and replace them, and it's just a huge hassle. And we are trying to really advertise this map as an RTX map as well. So the best way I can answer that, honestly, is we hope, but
I think it depends entirely on, like, we will do whatever you guys want. It depends on like how much support we're getting for it. If the map is like really popular at that point, then sure, like absolutely we'll port it over because a lot of people are wanting it.
The next question we have, and it's kind of a strange one, but it's directed towards me, from the same person, T Brooks. They asked, is my skin black mask with a TV head? That wasn't the intention, but it kind of looks like it.
Put the skull on.
Put the skull on? I'll put the skull on.
There, I mean that is just black
Yeah,
mask
yeah, so I guess I am. The next question comes from Gazer Beams. If you were to remake another fictional city, what city would you remake?
This is actually a really interesting question.
I
honestly haven't even thought about this.
I honestly thought I was gonna make Gotham till I die. I don't know.
Yeah, we usually say like, what's after Gotham? I mean, maybe that's a question you're gonna ask me when I'm like 50 years old. So I don't know, but if I were to do something else, it's a fictional city, right? So fictional city, probably, I think Metropolis. Like seeing what they did it with Suicide Squad, the game, like that game kind of isn't good, but like the map is really cool. So I mean, Metropolis has potential, and I think it's kind of like something people don't really think about in the way people think about Gotham City. So probably Metropolis. That seems like the most natural step.
I think for me, I would have a similar answer in terms of it being a DC related city, but I would like to add on to this map more if we ever get this done. I think I would want to make Bloodhaven. Like,
that is so true. Honestly, yeah.
Bloodhaven has nothing going for it, and I think we could honestly be the first people to make it really cool and really interesting. When I think of Bloodhaven, I'm not like a big Bloodhaven nerd, but I can't think of like one building in Bloodhaven. But it would be cool to have like 2 cities on this map that are like so far apart that you have to like go through the woods or like take a highway or something. And I think that would be really interesting.
Some Grand Theft Auto type stuff.
Exactly. It wouldn't be to the scale of what we have Gotham. It would probably be like an island, kind of like Miyagani's size, maybe even smaller than that.
So the next question comes from Night Shroud YT on YouTube. With the recent release of add-ons for Bedrock Edition, do you think you'll use some of the different add-ons in your Gotham, whether it be one of the furniture ones or something else entirely?
I'm I'm pretty stubborn with this question. When add-ons first got added to the marketplace, like the furniture ones, and I knew like 4 people that jumped on that trend like immediately. And I looked at it and they were just so, it's really cool that we get to have that in game and people use that to like make interiors and stuff, especially if they want to do like role-playing stuff. That's like really important. But for me, making my world, it's so outside the vibe and like style of Minecraft that it kind of takes me away from the moment. When you have a chair that's like these tinier pixels compared to a regular pixel of a block, and they're like super high res and stuff, especially like tables and like drawers, lamps even, it just kind of takes me out of it. And I think there's a lot of elegance to be able to make those things out of the blocks that we're given, and it kind of enhances creativity a bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, actually, I want to answer another question that's in this section that is similar, or at least like I'm going to relate it. T Brooks 202 also asked, do you plan on making a story and or playable quest for this map? The build for this map is incredible. You guys really know how to build big buildings with little details. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think this kind of answers my version of it. Is I would like add-ons specifically for like a story type of element. Hey everyone, this is Alaris like 2 months in the future editing this video, and some things have changed for the better for this map. Sorry we haven't been active, but actually we are going to be doing a story for this, and that's actually going to be the primary focus of the entire map is the story mode, and there's tons of cool stuff that's going to be going into it. Levi the Reclaimed is actually primary programmer. He's been doing absolutely insane stuff. He's not just working on Gotham Edifice, he's also doing his own Batman Bedrock Arkham add-on as well that'll have a little bit of overlap, but the Edifice one will have some unique features. He also did the Levi's Plushies add-on for Bedrock. He's extremely talented. I would go over there and subscribe. But I would love to have a story, and I've already thought about what the story could be and how it would function. So I think that's where add-ons would come into play, and also makes it more obvious like why we're on Bedrock specifically.
The add-ons for enhancing the story that we would want to tell would be very important.
Yeah, there's add-on, like when I say add-ons, I think the add-ons need to be very specifically tied to the map, like add-ons we make. But in terms of add-ons from the store, a lot of them just don't work for us. Like just either like they have the good functionality but they look wrong, or they look great but have bad functionality, and it just isn't going to work. So if we were going to do add-ons, it would be something we do in-house.
In this Gotham City, how long would you both say Batman has been active? Is this Batman in the Justice League? I'm gonna be honest, I haven't really thought about it. That's not something that really tickles my mind when I'm working on the world. I'm more so focused on like, you know, the city and the buildings and like the history and making sure things make sense, that I honestly like detach the character and, you know, the characters that surround that character completely from the city. I think for this world, we've kind of both agreed that it should be timeless, and there shouldn't be things that kind of take it out of it being timeless. So we're kind of going with like an early 90s sort of vibe. There's like flat screen TVs aren't in our world. We have like old box TVs and like old cars.
The kind of story I was thinking about was sort of early, kind of middle Arkham Asylum, I guess. You know, he's got a bat cave, he's got a lot of gadgets, he's friends with Commissioner Gordon.
And to answer that second part, if he's in the Justice League, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. Like, not yet.
Let's be honest. He probably got offered
hates
and he probably got offered and turned it down. Like that seems like
Yeah.
something Batman would do.
So the next question is by Lux from Discord. What made you guys come up with an extreme idea of Gotham like this? Also, some of these builds look dope as heck. That skyline at the end was insane. Keep going. I agree. The skyline is looking really, really cool. In terms of an extreme idea for Gotham, I've done so many Gothams. I used to make Arkham, like literally just like copying the games or like trying to remake the games. Arkham City was like the main thing I was making. So I'm so used to these like small residential areas, and to some degree we still are doing those. What I see in Gotham is a city that is otherworldly. Something that you just can't, contemplate the scale of it. It's so big and it's something you could just walk around forever. And we've gotten close to builds that feel like that. There's certain areas. I think the bridge we've built that we'll have an episode on soon is something that you can just kind of walk on. It's just like so big, and it like you look at it from far away, it's so insane. We're just slowly building up to that. So we're in the kind of lower area, but still we have a lot of elevation. I think honestly, Arkham City has a huge play in that. Is just that background was just me at least, and other people have just been aiming to get something to look like that. We're aiming to get something to look like the backgrounds you see in the comics. Just stuff that just couldn't even exist in real life. It's so big. And so that's what we're trying to go for, but it's also very compact. We're not going for a grid city that's like New York. It's fantastical, but also super large and super tall.
When I first started on this world, like 10 billion years ago, when I was making it, I wasn't really a talented builder. A lot of people don't seem to know that, but I sucked at building when I first started. I had the pleasure of watching Ilarus and Harry build their Gotham forever ago and just kind of learn and like watch them build and pick up on things that I liked and things I disliked and went from there and tried to make my own city. Somehow Ilarus saw that and was like, this is goated. And we started working on it together, and we shared a very similar vision of what the city wanted to be. Honest to God, if Ilarus wasn't a part of this project, the city would not look as good as it does now. So Ilarus is a huge part of this world. A lot of the geniuses behind it are thanks to them. So you can thank her. I actually have no idea what I'm doing. I still don't know how to build. I haven't done any of this, guys.
I feel like Junior underplays how much he can do. Like he's definitely I don't know. I think the core of this world is built off of Junior. Like, there's entire blocks that are made from him. I come in, I have ideas for areas, like I'm kind of taking lead on Arkham Asylum a little bit, but like there's many parts of the city that Junior perfected. He's way more dedicated to this than I am, which is really respectable. So I think you're underselling yourself.
I just know that they see this and they see all these tall buildings. Like, I would never think of that. That's one of the pleasures that we have. Our ideas are similar, but I think the way we execute them are slightly different. And we just come up with such unique ideas, and the way to make buildings flush, like just blend with each other, and districts and neighborhoods blend with each other, and coming up with things that we've never even seen before just randomly off the bat. Like, we have an ongoing joke called executive decisions.
Yeah.
Where we'll be like, all right, Ilarus, I'm about to make an executive decision. It usually works out really well, and those usually happen when we're struggling a lot, and it will just like change up the entire thing that we're doing. Like, it will just completely change and put it in a different direction, which is good. This world is built off a lot of failures and learning from them and overcoming them and trying things that we would otherwise never try if it wasn't for the challenges we face like every 2 days. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, I can't really explain how we do it. We just kind of do it. Parker Plays 9302 asks, how many islands are you going to have? Are you going to have 1 or 2 Wayne Towers? We're going to have 4 islands. 5 if you include Arkham. But there's 4 main islands. There's Miagani, Reverie, Marigold, an edifice in that order, from smallest to largest in terms of the buildings. For Wayne Towers, I proposed this to Ilarus not too long ago about the double Wayne Towers idea and Wonder Tower. I won't get into that too much because I'm still holding that in my back pocket, and it's going to be like a big reveal of like, oh, Junior's like awesome and insane. This guy's a genius. But I think we're going to have one Wayne Tower. I think that's...
Yeah, I think also everything we do, like, look at this place we're in right now. It's like, this isn't from the comics. This isn't something we've seen in a game or anything. This is something we came up with naturally. I especially have been advocating for originality, like trying to redefine what Gotham is. I know this is like a Minecraft project, but the bridge we came up with that's not too far away is one of the examples, and I can't wait to show it in its full glory. But it's such a unique bridge, like to the point where we couldn't even find reference material
Yep.
for like the exact structure we wanted. Everything, like when we're going to, I'm even thinking of like Wonder City. We're trying to think of like, let's not make this like the game, because that's, coming from me personally, I've done Wonder Tower before, and so I want to do something entirely different.
Right. I agree. I think this world is supposed to give the inspiration and the will to try and be more creative and come up with things that we've never seen before. That's one of the things that I love when I go on other people's worlds and check out their Gothams, is seeing things I've never seen before and be like, whoa, that's kind of cool. Whether that be like buildings or DC related builds, or, Gotham buildings, whether it be Wayne Tower or Wayne Manor, or I don't know, Goth
Or
Corp
just
or
like
something.
island structures, like kind of the way roads are laid out, or elevation, I think is just really interesting.
A lot of the time, we're not even thinking about the next, like Gotham related build that's like in the mythos. We're like, well, that would be cool to add, so we add it, and we just make it
Yeah, we're
Gothic.
just thinking about this as a city. Like, we've been saying, like, if we ever sold this map officially, we would just call it the Dark City, and it would be so easy to cover up the fact that it is Gotham, and that's not a bad thing, I don't think. It just means that it's very much its own thing.
Agreed. But the next question comes from, and please forgive me, I'm about to butcher your name completely. Golhermep Matas 9346 from YouTube asks, is Wayne Manor / Batcave going to be built? Yeah, it's gonna be built. We talked sort of recently about maybe
We're saving that. You know why we're saving that? Because those are like the videos that do the best usually.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to save that for when we have more subscribers, and then we'll drop that 50K in the bag, and there you go.
We'll be millionaires when we drop those videos. I am scared for them though. I feel like there's a lot of a lot of pressure for those buildings, because those are...
I agree, but also like just what we were just talking about is I want to make them different.
Amen.
I kind of want to make a small Wayne Manor, because the Wayne Manor we made on me and Harry's or Sanity's World, that was on my channel, that thing was too big. It was cool in conception, like the inside had some cool stuff, but I'm thinking of like a smaller building, a more personal building.
Amen.
That has a lot of hidden secrets and stuff than this like massive Arkhamverse one. And I think the Batcave would be similar. I want it to be, I'm not sure what it is yet, but I can tell you it's going to be very original.
Yeah, very different. And I'm excited for that, because it forces us to come up with things that other people have not. And when people see it, they're like, this is insane.
The average clown hole 3369. Not really a question, but I thought I'd include it in here because it's some pretty good topic. I remember you guys citing Elden Ring as one of your inspirations, and I can really see that with how intricate and detailed the layout of the city is, and especially with how much is hidden underground for you to discover. The city is absolutely insane on an aesthetic and technical level, and I can't wait to see what's next. I totally agree. I think Junior actually is a big proponent of a lot of underground hidden stuff and building these kind of hidden areas. But even in like a macro scale, Elden Ring was a huge inspiration for the World Painter map. I basically wanted to kind of think about how the elevation of the Elden Ring map, it kind of gets bigger and bigger. And in the same way, I think Arkham City, that backdrop is so, it's so colossal, it's so big, and it's something we've never been able to explore. Elden Ring is like one of those games that like gets close to that kind of feeling where you enter a new area in that game and you are just astonished by how large it is. I think sometimes it's at the detriment of the game, but it's just so insane, the scale of that map. And that's something I wanted to do here, but it's similar in the sense that as you get further and further into Gotham City, you will have taller and taller buildings. So in Elden Ring, it's more like, you get bigger and bigger castles and mountains, but in this, it's going to be actual buildings are getting taller. But Junior really does want to go in detail on a lot of the interiors. He's been a huge proponent of interiors. Like the first block has so many interiors in it.
That's kind of my thing I do when I'm stuck on something. I'll just go back and put an interior or two. Like, we had one recently added to this building I'm looking at, and it's so hidden and tucked away that you would never find it. And I'm not going to show it to you because I want you guys to find all these interiors, and I don't want to walk through all of them. You think that this is a lot just looking at it? There's more inside of it that leads to other stuff that you can't see in this image, which is cool. I love that. But to add on to Ilaris's idea of things getting bigger and bigger, right here is Park Row, and we'll showcase more of this in future videos, but this is kind of a little sneak peek at it. And across the highway, you can kind of see that from Park Row to Bexley, buildings just get taller. And from Park Row and onwards, they're just going to get smaller and smaller. And so you'll kind of have an idea when it's small and you're all the way over there and you're looking over to the skyline, you'll see these big towering buildings and buildings hiding behind those buildings that you're going to want to start walking all the way over here just to explore what's behind this building right here. Once you're here, you're going to see buildings all the way across that bridge that are going to be taller than these, and you're going to have the same feeling. You're going to go all the way, and it's just going to keep leading you to the tallest buildings, which will be over there.
It's such an unexplainable feeling, but we have this observatory that we haven't shown yet, and we don't really know when it's going to be finished. We have an observatory on a mountain that's in the outskirts of the city. With a spyglass, you can look at the bridge, the Edifice bridge, and you can look at Arkham Asylum, and it's like across the map. And it's just this unexplainable feeling of just like the scale of it. Imagine like that just across the city, like this entire city being complete. I could just walk through it all the time and just explore and explore. Even if I've created it myself, there's just something magical about walking through it.
So the next question we have is coming from Tommy Ataris from Discord. He asks, any tips for designing and texturing your builds? Oh, we have like hundreds of thousands of tips, and we can't get through all of them, unfortunately, but we can give you some of our best ones. For me personally, designing is, I design everything out of red first. It's one of the most important things. I can't build without it, because I need to be able to see the building's shape in order to put color on it. Obviously, I can do it without the red, but there's something about just having a blank canvas, and in my mind, that canvas being red, having that blank red building with all the depth and the windows and everything in it, and it's not a skeleton, and just picturing what blocks and colors and the texturing going there, because it's surrounded by buildings that are completed. So you can kind of picture, would brick go there perfectly? If yes, put brick. If not, do something else.
You don't want to waste your time, fully doing all of the colors for a building, and it turns out the shape doesn't work.
Yep.
So it's like good to do a red outline that's really easy. You're only using like a couple blocks. And maybe we could show the blocks we use.
We have a red outline over here that I can show that I'm currently working on. This is an example. This one isn't done, but this is a red outline. I don't have to do like the entire build out of red. I just need to focus on what's most important to get the shape and the vibe of this building down. And as you can see, I use nether brick and red concrete and the mangrove stairs and slab variants to get those depth and details and really enhance those minor things.
If it doesn't look good in red, it's not going to look good in color.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, okay, we have a gray building here. We have like a sandstone mud, and we got a dark brown with some gray. And I'm thinking, would a color similar to the ones I just listed be good? Would maybe a brick be good? I'm not feeling brick. I don't feel green. I already have brown, and I have like this mycelium purple, which is like a full block. And I'm thinking, could I put more mycelium here? Could I get away with like maybe some wood? Maybe go even crazier, maybe do like a, I don't know, maybe even a colored block, like a terracotta maybe. Like that's the process that goes through our head of like what would look good here that wouldn't stand out from everything else, but doesn't blend in with everything else.
Yeah, and also like just start coloring it. Like if we go over here, actually I was about to say some buildings just work. This didn't just work. This building was like mainly my design, like this outer brown brick building. It used to be a different color, and we just slowly sort of changed the colors. Like we'll be like, okay, this tough brick isn't working. We got to change that to blackstone. You know, there's certain sections of it we need to change. I also really do emphasize, we might get into this in another tip, but really I've started to notice blending different colors into each other. You kind of want to stray away from harsh contrasting colors. It's the nether brick. It might work here, but it is bordering on, you know, you don't want to do a super light color next to a dark color. Yeah. Sometimes it works. Like I think here, because it's a part of the windows, it works, but sometimes it doesn't work.
Like we'll find here. Let's find a building that is like this one right here, the first building. This building could probably use some love, but having this polished blackstone next to this by itself, it's bad. Like you would never do this in any circumstance. And I think a lot of people get comfortable with just having, you know, because they're at the time, a couple of years back, the bar was gray. Like you would just make buildings out of gray because that's all we had. And then Blackstone came in and people started mixing in Blackstone with their gray buildings. I did the same. That was one of the first things I did. But now, as I've learned to build a bit better, I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow, that's like really harsh on the eyes. And it's not really enhancing anything. There's no depth to, you know, advocate that there should be a darker block there. It's just a darker block for no reason.
I think this building works somewhat because it is, okay, all of the Blackstone here is concentrated on the pillars, so it somewhat works, but it could be way worse if we started trickling in Blackstone randomly. Please try to stay away from random, I call it stair detail, where it's like, oh, stairs are a detailed block, so I should just start doing random stair shapes and then call it a day.
I'm being dead serious when I say this. Look at actual buildings. The buildings that even we make sometimes, they would never fly in a real life city. So a lot of the details we do for buildings is arching the windows. You can see the shape right here. This is like an arch. You would see that on a building. And then you have an inner arch for the actual window well. You have a window separator. You even have window separators going vertically. And like you would see those on real buildings. We mentioned this, I think in the fourth video or something like that. But this building right here, when we first made this, we thought this was cool as fuck. Now it's just too noisy. If I hop out of RTX for a minute,
there's a lot going on here.
There's blacks with browns with grays with light grays, and it's just, it looks like like it was put through a garbage compactor. Like this looks like one of the Wall-E cubes. And there's like green in here. There's green in here too. There's tough. There's so much going on in here.
All right, you can chill out, man. Like this is my heart and soul.
Ilarus sucks at building, guys. Like I'm taking it back. Ilarus doesn't know what she's doing.
Also the pots. The pots are just too much. Like what's going on? This building right here, it's so simple.
Yeah.
Color scheme, the design, it's so simple and it just works.
Yeah. But compare this to this. It's just too noisy. For like texturing, I feel like a lot of people don't realize this, and it's kind of strange to me, but when you're building something, like the block texture matters. You will not see a lamppost made out of cobbled deep slate. So don't put cobbled deep slate in your lamppost, because that is just cobblestone. You would see like metal, or like, in even some cases wood for like wooden lamps, but you'll never see a cobblestone lamp. They will be mostly out of metal. Really look at the texture of blocks and see if it makes sense with what you're making, and try and mimic it to the best of your ability. In some cases, you won't be able to. Like for instance, we have this block here. We really wanted this dark burgundy brownish color, but there's no real smooth block in the game to reflect that. So we had to go with nether brick. But you can kind of get the idea.
Now, we might retexture it.
You kind of get the idea. Like, it still works. But also keep that in the back of your mind. That's another really good tip.
I have the last tip on this question. I know this is kind of long, but I mean, we're compacting a few tips here. If you come over here, I want to emphasize that depth is not always important, or the most important thing. So we do have some depth here with the, you know, broken wall here, but sometimes it's cool to just have a wall where the detail isn't necessarily the fact that you got like pillars poking out, or like stair designs, or like trapdoors, but just that you have a very like textured wall. We have a bunch of different blocks here that make the wall look very dirty. And guys, like, they design these blocks, like for instance the birch block, it is designed to mimic depth. There's dark lines here to say, oh, that's like a shadow on the block. You can use that to your advantage. You don't actually need to have depth everywhere. That's why we got rid of all the stairs and the sidewalks.
Yep.
Because we didn't need them, and they don't look right. If you have any specific questions about any of these, or you want us to actually like show them, please give us a question. We do have some other questions about specifically tips. So let's go over to how can you guys build so good? And if you got any tips, I want to be a better builder. My Gotham looks bad compared to others, and I want to have a Gotham that actually looks good and looks like Gotham. This is kind of a vague question, but like, bro, don't be hard on yourself. Like, just like Junior said, there's so much development. It takes time. We're still realizing problems with our Gotham that we've already pointed out in this video that we have to do. Every few months we go, dang, like, why do we do this? Like, this doesn't look good.
Yep.
The fact that you are able to realize that something is wrong, that's literally all you need. That is all you need to get better. And in terms of your question, how do you make a Gotham that actually looks good and looks like Gotham? It's a very vague question, but I would go with something that is unique to you. What can you do with Gotham that hasn't been done before? Give a structure to your Gotham that no one's seen before. Maybe your Gotham is really spread out islands that are very distant from each other. Maybe your Gotham is just one giant island with a bunch of skyscrapers. Maybe your Gotham is a bunch of very low buildings. Maybe your Gotham's like a grid of buildings. Maybe you're building a futuristic Gotham. Make something that's unique and it's gonna stand out, and that you can perfect and no one else could make. That's my biggest tip. A lot of the other things are more specific.
We really appreciate the support and that you really like our Gotham, but don't try and make ours. Like, I look at, like, earlier today I saw a build and it was like this giant golem monster, and it was probably made on Blender and transferred to Minecraft, but like, that was crazy. And it was made on Minecraft, and it's like, I can appreciate that. I would never make that. And so understanding that you need to make something that is catered to you to make it fulfilling for you, you have to hunker down and just figure out, okay, what do I like, what do I dislike, and how to make it more unique. And I honestly encourage you, like, watching this video or watching our older videos, look at stuff and be like, I like that, but I really don't like that. And then think about why, and then how you could make it better. There you go. That's a great stepping stone. If you really want a Gotham that like surpasses this in your mind, Just look at things that you really dislike and how you would make them better. Because that's how I started. I looked at Ilarus and Harry's Gotham, and I was like, I really want to make one, but I don't have the skill for it. So I'm just going to focus on making one building, and I don't care how long it takes. I'm just going to make it till perfection, what I consider perfection. I spent 3 months on that building. The first building in Gotham I spent 3 months on. We have another question coming from Nightshroud again from YouTube, asking, I'm looking to start my own Gotham after quite a few years of being away from Gotham building. Do you guys have any suggestions on where I should start first? Whether it be building, or buildings in Gotham, or start on a Wayne Manor? Honestly, that's really up to you. If you asked me a couple of years ago, I probably would have just said start on the city, because at the time everyone was doing manors and Batcaves. But honestly, just do whatever you want. Really master what you're doing. Like, really just focus, hone in on one specific thing. Don't overstimulate yourself with multiple different things and plans and stuff. Just focus on one thing that is so isolated.
Whatever you do not have a skeleton city.
Yeah.
Do not lay out entire blocks like we showed earlier, the red outlines we do. Those are not skeletons. We try our hardest. If there is a skeleton, there's like one at a time on our world. And what a skeleton means is you have the general, like, literal edges of a building. Usually people do them in red. Don't do that. If it's the next building you're going to do, then cool. But don't like have those, because it's overwhelming. It makes it not fun when you realize like how much you have to do. Our world is pretty big, so we're going in between like Park Row and Arkham Asylum. That's our kind of main focus. But for you, if you're just starting out, literally just maybe just do Wayne Manor. Focus on like a single room in Wayne Manor and make that room the best it could possibly be. I find those type of challenges to be the funnest in Minecraft, because they're it's quick to see the progress. It's quick to see what works and what doesn't. It's not like you're building an entire skyscraper and it's going to take forever and it's grueling. Just doing a single room or like a single small building, those are like really fun projects.
Yeah.
I would focus on that first.
And they're easily obtainable. Like, they're not out of reach. When you start having things, like, from where I'm standing, if I didn't have all these buildings completed, and I saw a red outline there and there and there and there, I'm gonna get overwhelmed. It's like, oh, I gotta do these. But then I don't want to, because I don't want to do them if I'm acting like that. So I'm gonna start somewhere else. You don't want to leave yourself in that situation. One of the greatest gifts, and after a while you'll come to appreciate it if you do this, is that if you just hunker down on one building at a time till completion, and you keep going on to the next one and the next one and the next one, eventually you'll have a block or multiple blocks that are done, and it's like really starting to come along. Like, all of these are done. Everything I'm looking at, I don't have to worry about. They're all done, and I can go back to these and look at things that I've done in the past and be like, whoa, that's really cool. I'm gonna try and translate that to the new area I'm working on, or to this new building I'm working on. A lot of people, they suffer from like inspiration loss, or they like don't have the willpower to keep on working with what they got, and they kind of get burnt out. But when you have things in front of you that you've built to completion, you're gonna be like, I just want to keep building and see where else this can go. That's why I'm building in Park Row so much. I just want to see where this goes. I'm really interested on getting this done and seeing how it's going to look compared to the rest of the city. Don't
be the ideas person. Don't be like, I want to do this, but like, I did this. I'm still like in disbelief that we even finished this district. Like,
there's a lot going on.
A lot of people don't get this far, and yeah, there is so much going on. Like, we just cracked down on it. It took a while, but once you have something like this under your belt, you're like, okay, I mean, yeah, of course we could do
the rest.
Of course we could do the rest of it. It's still gonna take forever, and we're still, need to take our time on it, but I have no doubt in my mind that we could do the rest of this island. Once we get this island done,
that's gonna be crazy.
The amount of confidence we'll have going into Reverie is just like, yeah, like whatever. Like, yeah, we'll do that. So once you get a building down, you're like, oh, I can do a building. Once you get a block, That's the peak there. It's like
Yeah,
once you have a block down,
then
you're like, okay,
you can
I
do
got it.
you can do neighborhoods, you can do districts. Like it only goes up from there.
Okay, our next question is by CyBatman1003. What tips would you give about doing diagonal buildings / roads? Also, great video. Everything looks amazing. Thank you. We have tons of tips about diagonal roads. Like, in fact, Junior was just talking about how we should be doing more of them and like having more like wacky angles. Usually, like if you turn around, these are 45-degree angles. It's just these kind of very satisfying angles, and I'm telling you now, only do these. If you're a beginner,
Just do those.
only do these. At some point, like we're not even here yet. We're gonna get to diagonals that look more like this.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different beast. In terms of these types of diagonals, my first tip, and I'll let Junior go into this because I think he's more of an expert on this. This building's not a good example. Maybe this one. Make your diagonal buildings less detailed than normal because the diagonal nature of them is going to make them detailed anyways.
Yep. So, like Eiler said, that's one of my biggest tips for diagonal stuff. I don't need to over detail this. I put like, if just imagine this in red for a second. This is a really simple build. There's stairs, slabs, walls, and then pillars. That's it. And like the occasional button here for this building. But another good example, this building. This doesn't have a lot going on to it. It's just its nature of being diagonal. It looks like it has more depth. You can kind of control it a little bit better because of that. You can determine how much depth you want in this building. And I enjoy making diagonal buildings a lot more because I feel like they're just so much easier. I don't know what it is.
The arches, for sure.
The
It's so
arches,
easy to
yeah.
make arches.
Yeah, the arches are just simple. It's just 2 stairs. Like, that's an arch right there. And it adds a
For
lot.
sure.
Like, I back up, take a skyline shot. Like, that,
You can't even notice if
Yeah,
you're far away.
like, that looks like a straight building. That doesn't look like it's on a diagonal when I'm all the way back here. And that's crazy. So, diagonals add a lot, and they definitely add a lot to your skyline, too. Diagonal, tall buildings. And for roads, the best advice I could really give, and I see this plague a lot of people, for intersections, please curve your roads early. Some people just do hard right angles. Like here, let me give an example. Like if I grab this stair, some people just do this.
Yeah, that's not realistic. At all.
That's not realistic at all. Like if I was a car and I saw that, I'm not taking that turn, bro. You have a penis right now. You have something crazy going on right there. I don't know what's going on.
What?
I don't.
Huh?
You got a third leg, bro. I'm not even lying.
I know what glitch you're talking about. I must exterminate myself.
Okay, yeah, you do that.
Yeah, don't do this corner. You have a penis. I thought that was a part of the tip. Okay, I'm making this worse. Can you invite me again?
Yeah, I got you. But just don't do that. Like, try and curve it. There's a lot of these skinny roads that really need it. Like this one especially. Like this road is like messed up. And like you try and take this, you're gonna have to take this turn at 1 mile an hour, or you're like gone. But some of these roads are like not really realistic, but they're just enough to the point where you don't think about them a whole lot. Like this, I am like hitting a pedestrian if I try and go through this, but you don't think about it because it's
also,
like it's so organic looking.
I want to emphasize, you know, your roads. It depends. Like maybe sometimes for important buildings, you start with what the building's going to be, and then you do the roads. Very, very often we do the roads first, and that does not necessarily mean the roads define the shape. For example, and this is something we don't even really think about anymore, but I'm sure beginners are thinking about this. We have a road here. We have a diagonal building. The building doesn't have to follow the road. Like the sidewalk here is wider here than it is here. It doesn't have to follow it. And that's a more natural way to have it. If you have a grid city, it's a different, you know, story. The biggest thing that really helped us in terms of roads, having more naturally declining and inclining roads, you know, follow some kind of uh landscape, you know, maybe make a world painter world and follow the actual terrain or cut into the terrain.
Another thing I want to point out, and this will probably be the last thing I say, is that like when we were first doing this road right here, this was perfectly straight. And I don't think there was any sort of elevation. And if there was, it was probably like a block or two. But when we were doing the museum, we were like, this is just
off.
It looks
was just
terrible.
weird.
And so we just moved a block over every like 15 blocks or so. And it just changed it completely. Like, just looking down the road, that looks so more appealing and more realistic in my eyes than it just being a perfectly straight
It
road.
looked artificial before, you know.
Yeah, it looked like an AI image. Just having that, just like that slight change in road height and in the offset of the road makes a huge difference, especially when you have a really long one where there's buildings, especially straight buildings, on both sides. It really helps a lot. So we got our next question from Jack Levin69 from YouTube. And this one's kind of a beefy question, so I'm going to try my best to read it without messing it up. Hey man, I've always loved the videos like these and have made maps of my own. I feel like Minecraft is a form of art, and making these cities is like making my own imagination of Gotham come to life. I'm working on my most in-depth and probably last map, and was wondering, when you make your cities, do you do them on a grid type style or just have the roads go wherever? On mine right now, I have the roads that are in the north-south direction, equally apart, but was wondering, what's your input on the connecting roads east and west direction? Well, to answer your question, yeah, we kind of have the roads go wherever, but also not really. We kind of follow the topography of the land a lot. In Park Row, it's a different story because we have to go down and cut into the land, but for a lot of Bexley, and especially like downtown Bexley, we followed a lot of the topography of the land, and especially on the coast. That was a big one too. If you have a map where there's like grassy hills and stuff, don't be afraid to make the road go up with that hill. But for your last part of that question, north-south directions equally apart, but was wondering what's your input on the connecting roads east to west direction. I don't really understand that question. You kind of just connect them. We don't really have like an equal set of them, and I can't think of any part of the city where they're equal to one another. What I can tell you is for street names, for north and south we do street, and then east to west we do avenues, and then there's like those slight variations with very specific road types like crescent. But I would honestly, don't even worry about it. I don't even think that it's a big deal. Just, you know, wherever the road goes, and if it fits well, just go with it.
I think realism is kind of in the back of our mind. Like, obviously, we're not going to make something that just, you know, doesn't make any sense. Or we always make our roads wide enough to make somewhat sense. If they are too wide or if a curve is too sharp, then we're like, oh, we should probably change that, make that make sense. Our monorails curve very slowly, or the slowest we can curve them, because we know that sharp turns don't make sense for a monorail. But generally speaking, a lot of our roads are shaped the way they are, not because of realism, but because it just works better for the city. Hey guys, so in this part of the Q&A, I actually wanted to show different programs, so it's just going to be me for this part. There's 2 questions I want to answer by the same person. So Tommy Atarius, I think that's how you say it. What do you use to retexture blocks? That's the first question, and the first application I'm going to show, now this is just for blocks. I'll sneak peek another program that people talk about a lot, but there's this website called Photopea. It's a free version of Photoshop, but you can use other things, but for this example I'm just going to use Photopea. Just look up photopea.com. They just get money through ads. It's free, and it has pretty much everything you need. Like, I have Photoshop, but or I recently got it again, but at this point it's like just so much easier to just click on Photopea than it is actually Photoshop. But so what we're gonna do is, usually blocks are 16 by 16, so we do that. I usually turn this to black background. It's really small, so you gotta zoom in with Alt Zoom. And here, now the first step, this is something I did not realize for the longest time. You need to switch it to the pencil tool. This is so that there's no blending. And if I switch my color, you know what? I've never understood Photoshop with the two color thing. Anyways, let's go with red. And you want to make layers as much as possible. You can make folders and put them inside of it. You can do whatever you want. It's up to you. So I'm gonna start on this. You don't want to paint onto the background because maybe you want to hide the layer that you're working on. But yeah, so if I just do it with this, it's flat. There's no blending. If I switch to the brush tool, on the other hand, this is what it looks like. Now, at first, you might think this is better because it'll add like a bit of realism. It's usually not, though. Because you have so little pixels to work with, you want to be very precise about your shading and stuff. I'm going to make a new layer. I'm not going to paint onto it. I don't even think you can paint onto that. And then let's go with our highlight. So I'm going to go here and just simple highlight. I'll make another layer for the shadow. And the color theory of it is just something you're going to have to get used to. Like the shadow is going to be a similar color. Technically, it would be closer to yellow because the shadows are always the opposite color. So the opposite of this is like a yellowish green. I'm not necessarily going to do that though because we're not really going for realism. Now by itself, there's a little bit of a 3D effect. This is stuff they do on like the andesite, like polished blocks. But then you want to go in, usually what I do, and this is kind of how the base game does it, is they do 2 or 3 little detail ones. So I picked a slightly darker color. And now I'm going in and it has a little bit of like detail to it. And then for the middle, it's kind of a similar idea. You can just add in some details. Now it depends on like what you want it to look like. Is it like cobblestone looking in the middle, or maybe it is like metallic. Metallic is usually like lines, or this can kind of be stone as well. This is my process. Like, this is kind of what I do. When you're working with this many pixels, it's best to literally place it pixel by pixel, because it's just going to be way more precise. Now you could cheat and go double click on a layer, and you could go bevel emboss and then change the size to 1 question mark and go to chisel hard. And we cheated. So I cheated and made this version. I guess you could start with this, but again, it looks very smooth from far away, so you don't want to make your blocks look too realistic or too smooth or too noisy, is the goal. And that's kind of what I've been aiming for my block. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to waste too much time. But the next question is actually about World Painter. Okay, I lied. I'm not going to the next question. What I'm going to is Blockbench. So I'm not going to show too much of this, but you can do modeling, but you can also do painting. So this is like some experimental spruce leaf I was working on that Junior keeps getting super upset about in the game. Actually, no, it wasn't even this. It's just that the spruce texture is like messed up now. But yeah, you can do the same thing here. This is a bad example, but yeah, you can do this. Now it's going everywhere because this is the same texture copy and pasted everywhere. But yeah, this may even be a better way of texturing because you can see exactly what it's going to look like in 3D. It's kind of just like whatever you prefer. So Tomatarius also asked for any World Painter tips. So World Painter is great if you're planning to do a whole city, like an actually professional map, then you're gonna need World Painter because getting rid of terrain, adding water, it's just a huge waste of time that you don't need to be doing. I'm not gonna go through every single aspect of World Painter because it honestly is really complicated. My My best advice is, first of all, make the water swamp water because it just looks better. You can edit the biomes here, so like if I solo this, I actually got rid of this biome recently because it was so bad, but yeah, all my water is swamp just because it looks better. Like, water in real life is very rarely like blue, unless you're in like Australia or something, or like the Caribbean. So yeah, that's my first tip. My second tip, which this is like custom layers and stuff, get rid of that. We're just gonna look at terrain. My second tip is it's really hard to tell the topology. So they have these lines here that kind of show you every, this is like maybe 15 blocks. It'll draw a line at that y level, so you can kind of tell which things are higher and which are lower. There's also some shading, so that kind of gives you an indication of what's like, this is very steep, this is very steep. But at the same time, it's still really hard to tell. There is a 3D view that you probably should use sometimes to kind of really know. So I can do a 3D view. It does take a while to load this, and your computer is going to start running. But you can see things a lot better. The shading is still not amazing, but you can kind of get a better idea of like what is tall and not. Like that hill there is very clearly like that's pretty tall. That was on purpose though, so don't worry about it. My other tip here is like the scale. So you want to make sure your topology isn't too tall or too flat, and I really highly recommend that you make the city have elevation. So don't just make the whole city the same Y value. Like these islands, they have a variety of Y values. You can see if I zoom in, this island is generally flat, although we do have a lot of elevation on it anyways. But like this one's kind of has a bunch of different levels. This one especially, like this part is super low, while this part is pretty high up. So I encourage to do stuff like that. Keep in mind that like every time I do a world painter world, you have to do so many different iterations of it. You're gonna have to import it a billion times to make sure the scale is right, because Minecraft is smaller and bigger than you think it is. Now that we have a much larger render distance, just whenever you're testing this world, turn up your render distance all the way so that you can really tell like what the actual scale is. The small render distance makes worlds feel bigger than they actually are. When you turn up the render distance, you realize like, oh, this is actually kind of small. Our Gotham isn't really that big, honestly, compared to some other Minecraft cities. But we're doing that on purpose for time reasons. You also don't want to make it too small. Again, like render distance will make it seem bigger than it is. You don't want to make things too small. You can also maybe accidentally make things too big if you're not measuring. So before you start doing World Painter, measure. Like I literally put an image of the block we were doing. This is where Bexley is, by the way. I put an image of the block. I overlaid it, so I knew, okay, this is generally the scale of the city, and now I know kind of what the rest of the city needs to be in scale. Do not just work in World Painter and then expect you to, like, you can't downscale the map later. That's not a thing. I don't think it's a thing. So you need to make sure the scale is right immediately. My last tip, because I don't want to go into too much stuff, this is like topology stuff, so you're starting out. Whenever you do this, so this is the terrain tool. These two, this one is a noise. Let's see, let's turn up the, how do you turn up the size? I forgot. That's rotation. Okay, shift scroll is the size. So I wanted to make this a very realistic, very grounded map. And a thing I did a lot was, if you turn this thing really like far down and you start detailing, you get these like really nice, like noisy terrain effects, and they look great, and it looks so detailed and nice in World Painter. Like this looks really cool. It looks really realistic, and I could like do it to here, make it look super like rough. Um, I have realized over many like occasions of doing world painter maps, do not do this. As you can see, there is a lot of detail and like there's some noise here and there, but a lot of it is smoothed out. The reason for this is that it looks really good here in World Painter, but as soon as you go to the world, you're gonna realize like it looks like the world got glitched out. Like it doesn't look right at all. I can't show an example at the moment, but it looks messed up. It looks like there was an earthquake. So make sure your level of detail is the right amount. You want to kind of smooth it out. And this is something I can't really show necessarily. It's something you're gonna have to learn. But yeah, the main tip I have is iterations. If you're doing a world painter map, expect yourself to export this 20 different times and have to do 20 different edits, because it's gonna take a lot of time. There might be glitches. You know, me and Junior had to explore all of these outer regions to make sure there was no glitches, no chunk errors and stuff. So just spend a lot of time and make sure you're checking the environment before you do a final export. Hey, what is up, man?
What is up, man? Welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. I heard we were ending the video here.
Yeah, this weird, desolate, liminal place. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that we answered your questions and, you know, you got some insight on whatever you needed insight on. Whatever your endeavors are, whether you're making Gothams or something else entirely, that our answers maybe will help you build better and look at things differently. Yeah, please keep asking questions. Like, even in this video, if you still have questions, put them in the comments. We'll make another one. I can't tell you when, because I don't know, but we'll make another one eventually, and we'll answer it then. So,
and like, I mean, this video kind of goes to show that like if we answer these in the comments, like writing is hard. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't want to write a whole essay for you.
yeah.
You know, answering a question. So when we make these videos, we're able to kind of actually like show what we're talking about, and so that kind of gives you a reason to actually like leave Q&A questions.
Yeah, it gives you a better insight because we can get a little bit more hands-on. Well, we should have a new video out hopefully soon. I think it's going to be the bridge. I can't tell you when that's coming out because we haven't really put any progress in it. I might actually start chipping away at that. That way we can get that ready. But yeah, that should be the next video coming out. And then after that, hopefully Arkham. I don't know, maybe, possibly, in like Christmas of 2080. But
get this video to 20 billion views, and
guys,
we'll work on it instantly.
Guys, get me monetized. Watch this in the background. We need 3,000 hours. Watch this in the background. Get us monetized. You know, get us some bread, and we'll
work for you.
We'll work for you. We'll work for you for free. Anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You have a penis.